Welcome to Bible for Overcomers. So I don't want to major on this subject, but it came up this morning, coming out of a Bible study. Another Christian said to me about giants in the Bible, Nephilim. First of all, that word Nephilim's not in the scriptures, but there certainly are giants, a whole lot of giants, a whole lot of different tribes of giants on both sides of the flood. So this brother said to me, and it was a good question, he said, if only 8 souls were saved by water, by the flood, okay, Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, his 3 sons' wives, how is it that giants reappear? And don't talk about Goliath, there's a whole lot of tribes of giants, the Elikims, all kinds, Og of Bashan, the king, he was a giant. There's literally tribes of giants. The Anakims, I think I've counted somewhere between 6 to 9 different tribes in different areas of giants, just there in the in that part of the world that I read about in the Old Testament. And this is post-flood. So how did we get the giants pre-flood? Well, we know one reason, at least, that's identified, and that's here in Genesis chapter 6. And verse 1, it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Next verse, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. After that, God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and so on and so forth, and we lead up to the flood. So this business about the sons of God, well, I know I read in Job, and you read in Job, how it says there came a time when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord in heaven. So the sons of God are definitely beings from heaven. I know people will say, but the angels are sexless. Well, the fallen angels, when they were sent down here, how do we know that they remain so? Because definitely we have creatures from heaven here, whether you want to call them demons, fallen angels, whatever, that came down, and their offspring were giants, men of renown. And they could have been really big too, a lot bigger than Goliath. So anyway, when we get post-flood though, how are all these giants coming back? Well, so I spoke about this with my precious brother, and he didn't really know, and I don't really know, but I did pose this question. What if the Bible doesn't say it, but it doesn't say it didn't happen. What if the sons of God continued to come down for a period of time after the flood, and that's where you get the Anakims and all these other giants, because the line of the giants was erased, supposedly, by the flood, because, again, only 8 souls were saved by water. So how do we know that didn't happen again? We know that there were giants, a whole lot of giants. Now, I guess Goliath, I don't know, I'd have to do the math again, but we know he was at least 9 foot. But there's legends of giants throughout time, and in relatively recent history, during the first circumnavigation of the globe by Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese who went into the service of Spain for Charles V, and he went and took this year and a half, almost 2-year journey, which Magellan didn't survive, by the way. But there was sent with them by the King of Spain an official chronicler who would keep an accurate record of what was going on, because the king knew that Magellan and his crew would juice up the story so they could have more acclaim if they survived the voyage and got back. So it had an official, unbiased person who wrote down the chronicles. And this man, who was definitely not friendly with Magellan, and he was the king's representative, I guess Magellan viewed him as a spy, he specifically wrote down in those chronicles, as did the surviving members of the expedition later gave testimony to this fact, that when they got down, before they got down to Patagonia in southern Argentina on the Atlantic side, they encountered one specific tribe of giants, which they had not seen as they worked their way down the continent. And they even captured one who later died before they got to the Philippines. But they said that these men and women came in anywhere from 9 to 12 foot. And I dug into that a little bit, and I found some archaeological records of at least 9-foot skeletons being uncovered in southern Argentina. And who knows, I'm sure there are many of these same stories around the world. But this is the book that I read, Over the Edge of the World, and this is where I got that information from. Fascinating read, by the way. But this business about giants, now, I just did a video about UFOs, ghosts, and Bigfoot and all that, so I don't mean to be like taking this big turn. I'm not taking a turn into all that. But everything in the scripture is game on this channel. I mean, I want to talk about, you know, what we can glean from this book. And a lot of people seem to have questions about giants and these kind of mysterious things. And again, I'll remind you of the verse in Psalms that it is the glory of God to conceal a matter. Now, we definitely read about the records, so they're not that concealed. But it is somewhat of a mystery how giants can reappear after the flood. And of course, I guess the plan B to that answer that I am positing here, that perhaps the sons of God resumed coming down, because the Bible doesn't specifically say it didn't happen, to the daughters of men, and we had more giants produced, perhaps not as large. The plan B would be that we would have to take a real good look, and we don't know from reading the scriptures, but we would have to use our imagination just exactly what was all in the genetic code, in the makeup of, because there was some crazy stuff going on before the flood. Crazy things were going on before the flood. I think a lot more technology, a lot more wickedness, bestiality, a lot of crazy things were going on before the flood. What exactly, you know, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah and his wife, or at least of Noah, we don't really know everything about these three, so maybe from one of them came the giants, but I tend to go with the first theory that I put forth. But anyway, just it's interesting. You know, I don't know the answers on it, but a lot of people seem to want to talk about giants, and that's what the Bible calls them. I'm not sure where the word Nephilim came up, but if that's the you know, word du jour, the word of the day to use, that's fine. But giants do exist, and they have apparently existed into fairly recent times, because 500 years ago, Magellan went in 1519. In the big scheme of things, that's relatively recent. Anyway, that's all I got. Think on these things. Be blessed.